The morning sun poured through the hotel windows, spilling gold across ivory silk and soft petals scattered over the floor. Amelia sat in front of the mirror, her reflection a perfect picture of what everyone expected her to be: radiant, calm, and ready to be married. But beneath the flawless makeup, her eyes told another story. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted her veil. Behind her, bridesmaids laughed, glasses clinked, and someone said, "You're the luckiest woman alive." She smiled faintly. Maybe she was, or maybe she was making the biggest mistake of her life. The door creaked open, and her mother stepped in. "It's time," she whispered, eyes glistening with pride. Amelia rose, her heart heavy with unspoken truths. The dress fell tighter than it should, the room smaller, the air heavier. As she walked down the hallway, memories flashed the first time she met Ethan, the man she was about to marry. His confident smile, the way he made her feel safe. But then came another face, the one she wasn't supposed to think about. The one whose laughter still echoed in her mind. Her chest tightened. She had ended things with Noah months ago, right after the engagement, convincing herself it was for the best. But the way he had looked at her that last night, broken, silent, and understanding, still haunted her. The wedding march began. The doors opened. Hundreds of eyes turned toward her. Ethan stood at the altar, tall and proud, his smile steady, practiced. Amelia took her first step down the aisle, and with every step, her pulse grew louder, drowning out the music. Her father squeezed her hand and whispered, "You did the right thing." But as she reached the halfway point, something inside her cracked. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw Noah standing at the back of the church. Their eyes met, just for a second. Time stopped. The bouquet slipped from her hand. The room fell into a stunned silence. The bouquet hit the marble floor with a soft thud, petals scattering like pieces of her secret. Amelia froze, her breath caught somewhere between disbelief and panic. Noah didn't move, he just stood there, eyes locked on hers, calm but burning with everything left unsaid. Ethan took a step forward, confusion flickering across his face. "Amelia," he whispered, barely audible over the whispering crowd. Her mind spun. Run, stay, speak. Every version of herself screamed something different, but her body wouldn't obey any of them. The priest cleared his throat awkwardly. Her father's grip on her arm tightened. "Take it up," he hissed under his breath. "Everyone's watching." Amelia bent down slowly, fingers brushing the fallen petals, but her eyes never left Noah's. He looked pale, exhausted, like a man fighting the urge to speak. And then, as suddenly as he appeared, he turned and walked out. The doors shut behind him with a heavy sound that echoed through her chest. For a moment, she thought she might collapse. Ethan gently touched her shoulder, his voice careful, rehearsed. "Hey, it's okay. Cold feet, right?" She forced a smile she didn't feel. "Yeah, cold feet." But as the ceremony resumed, her mind wasn't in that church anymore. It was chasing footsteps down a hallway, rain-soaked memories flooding back every promise, every goodbye. And somewhere deep down, beneath the lace and lies, she knew this wedding was already over, even before she said "I do." That night, the reception hall shimmered with chandeliers and forced smiles. The music was cheerful, the laughter loud, but Amelia heard none of it. She sat at the head table beside Ethan, her new husband, the weight of the ring on her finger pressing like guilt. He leaned close and whispered, "You look beautiful." She nodded, her throat too tight to speak. Across the room, guests toasted, cameras flashed, and somewhere a violin played a love song that felt like mockery. Every time she blinked, she saw Noah's face, his silence, his retreat. 1,000 questions screamed inside her. Why was he there? What did he want to say? Did he still love her, or did he come to watch her make the mistake he warned her about? As the first dance began, Ethan took her hand, spinning her across the floor. Everyone clapped, phones raised to capture the perfect moment. But when he pulled her close, she could smell his cologne, familiar, yet wrong somehow. That's when she noticed the faint lipstick stain on his collar. Her heart skipped. It wasn't hers. The world tilted. Ethan smiled down at her, oblivious, his grip firm, his movements flawless. "You okay?" he murmured. She forced another smile. Perfect, she lied. For the rest of the night, she played her part, the loving bride, the smiling wife, while her mind unraveled behind her eyes. And as confetti rained around them, she realized with chilling clarity that Noah's silence had been a warning, not a goodbye. The next morning, sunlight crept through the hotel curtains, cruel in its honesty. Amelia woke to the sound of laughter outside, the dorm maids collecting champagne glasses, photographers packing up their equipment. The world had moved on as if nothing had happened. Ethan was still asleep beside her, one arm draped over the edge of the bed, phone glowing faintly on the nightstand. She turned her head just enough to see the screen light up with a message. Asterisk had a great time last night. Don't forget our secret. Asterisk. Her stomach clenched. The name attached was unfamiliar. She froze, pulse pounding, her breath shaky. Her first instinct was denial. It couldn't be real. Maybe it was an old message. Maybe it wasn't what it looked like. But deep down, she already knew. She got out of bed quietly, careful not to wake him, and walked to the balcony. The morning air was cold, sharp against her skin. Below, the ocean stretched endlessly, calm and cruel. She gripped the railing, tears stinging her eyes. Her wedding dress hung from the closet door, wrinkled and ghostly. That was supposed to be the happiest day of her life, but it had turned into a lie she couldn't escape. She picked up her phone and stared at Noah's contact still saved, though she'd sworn to delete it. Her thumb hovered over the screen for a long time before she finally typed. Asterisk. You were right. Asterisk. She didn't expect a reply. But a few minutes later, her phone buzzed once. Asterisk. I wish I wasn't. Asterisk. Her knees buckled. And for the first time since saying I do, she let herself cry, not as a bride, not as a wife, but as a woman who realized she had married a stranger. Amelia didn't go home. She couldn't. The thought of pretending, of smiling, cooking breakfast, answering questions about their perfect honeymoon made her stomach twist. So she left. No note, no explanation. She packed a small bag, grabbed her phone, and disappeared into the blur of the coastal highway. The radio played softly as she drove, but her mind was louder. Ethan's betrayal replayed in fragments, the lipstick, the message, the way he slept so peacefully beside her afterward. It wasn't just the cheating. It was how easily he could lie while calling her his forever. By noon, she stopped at a small seaside motel. The walls were thin, the sheets rough, but the silence was something she could finally breathe in. She turned off her phone and lay there, staring at the ceiling until the sun faded. But guilt gnawed at her. Her parents, her friends, they would all be frantic by now. Her mother would blame stress. Ethan would play the loving husband. The media would call her the runaway bride. And maybe that's what she was. The only person she wanted to call was the one she shouldn't, Noah. By midnight, she gave in. I can't do this, she texted. A few minutes later, her screen lit up. Then don't. Tell me where you are. She hesitated, then sent her location. 2 hours later, headlights cut through the fog outside her window. A knock followed. She opened the door, and there he was, tired, drenched, real. You shouldn't have come, she whispered. You knew I would, he said softly. They didn't talk at first. He just pulled her into his arms. And for the first time since the wedding, she stopped shaking. You don't have to explain, he murmured. I already know. His voice broke something. Inside her, the part that had been pretending she was okay. She buried her face in his shoulder, sobbing. When she finally spoke, her words came out like a confession. He cheated on me, Noah, on our wedding night. Noah's jaw clenched. He didn't curse or shout. He just closed his eyes and said, then maybe now you can start being honest with yourself. She looked up, tears blurring her vision. About what? About who you really wanted all along. His words hung between them, fragile but true. And for the first time, Amelia didn't have an answer. The only thing she knew for sure was that she didn't want to face tomorrow without him. The following morning felt like the calm after a storm, but only on the surface. Amelia woke in the motel room, sunlight creeping in through thin curtains, painting stripes across the tangled sheets. Noah sat by the window, staring out at the ocean, a cup of black coffee in his hand. He looked tired, older somehow, as if the night had aged them both. "You didn't sleep," she said softly. He smiled faintly. "Neither did you." Silence filled the space between them, heavy but familiar. She sat beside him, their shoulders almost touching. "I keep thinking about how everything happened so fast," she whispered. "One day I was trying on wedding dresses, and now I'm hiding in a motel with the man I never stopped loving." Noah turned to her then, his gaze steady. "You're not hiding, Amelia. You're healing." The word sank into her like warmth. For a while, they just watched the sea, waves crashing rhythmically like heartbeats. "What are you going to do?" he finally asked. Amelia sighed. "I don't know. I can't go back. Not after what I saw. Not after what I know." "Then don't," he said simply. "You deserve more than half-truths and empty promises." She wanted to believe him. "But fear not at her. Everyone will hate me," she said. "They'll call me a runaway bride." Noah shook his head. "Let them. Better that than a broken one." His words hit deep, and her eyes filled again. Without thinking, she reached for his hand. "What if I ruin your life by coming back into it?" she asked. He laughed softly, brushing his thumb over her knuckles. "You already did, years ago," he said, smiling. "And I never minded." She laughed through her tears, the first real laugh in months. For a moment, it felt like the world could be kind again. But as the day faded, her phone buzzed on the nightstand, dozens of missed calls. Messages from her parents, from Ethan, from unknown numbers. Her face drained of color. "They found me," she murmured. Noah met her gaze, calm but resolute. "Then we stop running," he said. "It's time you tell the truth." The setting sun bathed the room in orange light, and Amelia nodded slowly, her fear giving way to determination. "You're right," she whispered. "It's time." The drive back into the city was silent, except for the hum of the tires on wet asphalt. Amelia's fingers twisted the hem of her sleeve while Noah focused on the road, his jaw tight. She had agreed to stop running, but the thought of facing everyone made her stomach ache. "They'll destroy me," she whispered. "The media, my parents, his family, then let them." Noah interrupted gently. "The truth will outlast the noise." His calm steadiness anchored her, and for the first time, she believed it might be true. When they arrived at her parents' house, lights were already blazing. Her mother opened the door before she could even knock, face pale with anger and fear. "Amelia Grace, do you have any idea what you've done?" Her father's voice echoed from the living room. The police were about to issue a missing person alert. Ethan was there too, sitting stiffly on the couch, still immaculate, his ring glinting under the chandelier. "I can explain," she began, but he stood, cutting her off. "Can you? Because all I see is my wife, disappearing with her ex-boyfriend." The morning after our wedding, the room went still. Noah didn't flinch. He simply stepped beside her, quiet but present. "She's not your wife," he said evenly. "You lost that right the moment you lied to her." Ethan's eyes flashed. "You think she's innocent." He laughed bitterly. "Ask her about us, about how she still said yes, even when she didn't love me." His words stung, because they were true. Amelia took a breath, trembling. "You're right," she said softly. "I didn't love you the way I should have. I tried to convince myself it would grow, that I could build something stable, safe. But you took that choice away when you betrayed me." Ethan's smirk faltered. "What are you talking about?" She pulled her phone from her bag and read aloud the message she'd seen. The room fell silent again. Her mother gasped. Ethan's face drained of color. "That wasn't," he started, but she cut him off. "Don't. I'm done explaining." Away men's lies, Noah placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "We're leaving," he said quietly. Amelia turned to her parents, tears glistening in her eyes. "I know I disappointed you, but I'd rather be honest and alone than perfect and miserable." With that, she walked out, Noah following close behind. The night air hit her face like freedom. She didn't know what came next, but for the first time, she wasn't afraid of it. They didn't speak much after that night. Words felt too small for what they were about to face. The following morning, Amelia sat at Noah's kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a mug she didn't drink from. The news was already spreading, her picture plastered across headlines. Asterisk, runaway bride found with ex-lover. Asterisk. Her phone buzzed nonstop with messages, threats, pity. "You don't have to read those," Noah said, reaching to take the phone, but she shook her head. "I have to. It's my mess." Her voice cracked, and for the first time, he saw the exhaustion in her eyes. "You don't owe anyone an explanation," he said gently. "They'll make up their own stories either way," she sighed. "Then maybe it's time I tell the real one." She stood, grabbed her coat, and walked out before he could stop her. 2 hours later, Amelia stood outside a local news station, the sky gray and heavy. The receptionist froze when she introduced herself. Within minutes, she was sitting in front of cameras, lights glaring, heart pounding. "I'm not here to make excuses," she began. "I just want to tell the truth." Her voice wavered at first, then steadied. "My name is Amelia Grace Carter. I got married 3 days ago to a man I didn't truly love. I did it because it was expected of me, because I was scared to disappoint everyone. But the truth is, I disappointed myself instead." The room fell silent except for the soft hum of equipment. "I found out my husband was unfaithful. I left. And yes, I'm with someone I once loved. Not because I ran to him, but because he reminded me who I am." Tears slipped down her cheeks, but she didn't stop. This isn't a love story. It's a wake-up call. For anyone who's ever stayed quiet to keep others happy, don't. You can rebuild, even from the ruins. When the interview aired that evening, the internet erupted, anger, sympathy, admiration, all tangled together. Amelia turned off her phone and sat on the balcony of Noah's apartment, the city lights blinking like distant stars. "You told the truth," Noah said softly. She smiled through her tears. "For the first time in my life," she whispered, and it felt like breathing. The following days blurred together in a strange mix of chaos and calm. Amelia's interview had gone viral, shared, dissected, praised, and mocked. Some called her brave, others called her selfish. But for the first time, none of it mattered. She had spoken her truth, and that truth had freed her. Still, freedom came with its own kind of loneliness. Noah had become her anchor through the storm, yet she could feel a quiet distance growing between them. One night, as rain tapped softly against the windows, she found him sitting by the piano, lost in thought. "You've been quiet," she said. He didn't look up. "You're becoming who you were always meant to be, Amelia. You don't need me to finish that story." The words hit her like cold water. "What are you saying?" He met her eyes finally. "That maybe it's time you learn to stand without leaning on what broke you or who fixed you." She wanted to argue, but deep down she understood. Noah had come back into her life to remind her of her strength, not to replace what she'd lost. "You're leaving," she said quietly. He nodded once. For a while, the silence that followed was heavy but gentle, like two souls releasing each other without anger. He stood, brushed his thumb against her cheek, and whispered, "Promise me one thing, keep painting." She nodded through her tears. The next morning, he was gone. His coffee cup sat where he'd left it, still faintly warm. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, Amelia began to rebuild again, this time not around a man, but around herself. Her art changed, brighter, bolder, alive. One piece, titled Asterisk, the Unwritten Vow, Asterisk, caught the attention of a major gallery. It was abstract, to figures walking in opposite directions beneath the same sunrise. When asked what it meant, she smiled. "It's not about loss," she said softly. It's about letting go with love. Months later, the world had moved on, but Amelia's story lingered, whispered in articles, quoted in interviews, painted across her own canvases. She had built something new quietly, away from the noise. Her art studio overlooked the same ocean where she had once stood trembling in a wedding dress. Now she stood barefoot in paint-streaked jeans, sunlight kissing her skin, brushes tattered like memories she no longer feared. Her latest exhibition, Asterisk the Wedding That Should Have Never Happened. Asterisk drew people from across the country. Each painting told a part of her journey: love, betrayal, truth, rebirth. The final piece stopped everyone in their tracks. A bride standing in front of an open door, veil lifted, walking toward the light alone. Beneath it, a plaque read, Asterisk, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stay until you're ready to leave. Asterisk. On opening night, she stood quietly at the back, watching strangers interpret her pain, her growth. Her mother approached, hesitant. You turned your heartbreak into art, she said softly. Amelia smiled. It was never just heartbreak. It was a beginning, disguised as an ending. They stood together in silence for a while, the hum of conversation filling the gallery. As the night ended, she walked outside, the city lights shimmering across the water. A soft breeze carried the scent of salt and paint, and she looked up at the stars, whispering a silent thank you to Noah, to her past, to the version of herself that had been brave enough to walk away. Her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. She opened it and froze. Asterisk, your story saved someone today. Asterisk, she pressed the screen to her chest, tears forming. For the first time, she understood that her pain had found purpose. And under the glow of the streetlights, Amelia finally smiled, not as the runaway bride, not as the betrayed wife, but as the woman who rebuilt her own name, one truth at a time. If Amelia's story touched your heart, remember, sometimes the hardest no leads to the most powerful yes of your life. If you believe in second chances, self-worth, and love that begins within, hit the like button and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Tell me in the comments, what do you think a wedding that should have never happened truly means? Don't forget to subscribe for more cinematic stories about love, truth, and the courage to start over. Because sometimes walking away isn't the end, it's the beginning.